liability standpoint, the number one severity claim that we see in small rural upstate New York towns is a road maintenance claim where there is a bad accident on a town road. We get dragged into these claims. Some of these claims we have to work our way through, right? Okay, because maybe the car was going 70 miles an hour and it shouldn't have been. But yeah, we're brought into it because maybe there was snow on the road, maybe there was ice on the road, maybe there was construction on the road, and so now we're brought into this. I've seen numerous claims with road maintenance being the lead area. Over on page 15 is your equipment coverage. Probably would be good to give Mark a copy of this just to have him go down through it again. Okay. But we did that. I mean, when Mark, you and I sat down, we kind of went through this. Page 20 is your business auto liability. This is protecting the town from suits and claims that arise out of the use of your automobiles. You can see that the limits here on the policy really are pretty good limits. You have personal injury protection at $50,000 PIP coverage. That's no fault coverage. Then you have it backed up by an additional $100,000 limit of no fault coverage. That's going to pick up for anyone who was injured in, on, or around the vehicle as it's traveling down the road. Your employees are not covered. They're covered under workers' comp. Okay? You have medical expense payments at $10,000 per person. Anyone's injured in, on, or around the vehicle while they're working on the vehicle. Hired auto liability is at $1 million if you rent a vehicle. The hired auto liability comes with it. Non-owned auto liability really is affecting you folks, okay? And when you're using your personal vehicle for town use, you're involved in an automobile accident and the liability falls onto your personal policy. Your policy will pick up to the limits of your policy, and then any claim or damage that results above and beyond your personal limits gets picked up here, and then you have $1 million riding over top of this for bodily injury, property damage. Remember, the V&T law in New York State does provide immunity to a snowplow operator who is operating their snowplow on a New York State, on a road, not just a New York State highway, but on a road, and there is an accident. The liability, the town is insulated from that liability, okay? I can also tell you that the operator of the snowplow has to be operating the snowplow in a safe, workmanlike manner. Can't be reckless and dangerous, okay? Page 21 is giving you a list of your vehicles with the coverages that we just discussed.
Question, Bill, on that.
Yep.
I see the 2011 Ford 350 and the trailer have got comprehensive, deductible and collision deductible, and the other ones are full coverage. There's no deductible on the other ones?
The other ones are covered on the inland marine, the contractors and truck equipment policy. So these are private passenger vehicles or a trailer, and really all this is saying is the physical damage for those two items are really on the auto policy. They're not on the inland marine.
Okay. And going backwards here on page 18 on the equipment, I see you got a 1970 International tractor with roadside mower, and then the mower is listed down below separately. The mower is listed at, is that Kuhn mower is what's on that old International, right? The tractor's listed at 4 with the mower, right?
Yeah.
And down below, the mower is listed at $7,700 by itself.
My guess is the tractor was listed with the mower, the old mower, and then we bought the new Kuhn mower.
Right.
So I just added the Kuhn mower and probably left that other mower on.
Okay.
My guess. I mean, you probably can't buy that Kuhn mower for $4,000.
No, that's what I mean.
So
No, but I mean, it's listed here with the tractor, and it's listed down below separately, which I understand separate,
Right.
but maybe it shouldn't be listed with an international tractor, maybe that number should be lowered than your,
So what are you saying, Jeff? Let's take off the roadside mower on the.
I would
on
take the
70.
roadside mower off if you're gonna list the Kuhn mower down below, cause that's the same thing.
Yeah.
And maybe even reduce the tractor down to $2,000 instead of $4,000, cause it's a 1970 40 horsepower gas tractor. It's, you know,
You're saying you wouldn't give us 4,000?
I don't know. No, I would not. It's still international. No, I would not. I mean, I just, you know, I don't know.
Yeah,
Jeff, it qualifies under antique.
That's true. That's true. So do I guess.
but insurance doesn't work that way though. So if that's what you wanna do, we'll do that.
I don't know what the board thinks. I mean, you know, it's petty, but it's no sense having it
Let's clean it
overinsured.
up.
Yeah,
Let's clean it up.
just
As
drop
long as
it.
you're happy with the $2,000 value, let's clean it up.
Yeah, I mean, the 2,000 should be more than enough for the tractor.
And leave the new mower the same.
Right, leave that the same, yeah, because that's what, you know, it did cost us, I believe, that money.
What else did you find on there, Jeff?
That's basically, that was what,
Okay, let's go to page 23. This is your public officials policy. Now, public officials policy, this public officials policy has 3 different coverages. The first is directors and officers liability coverage, right? And so the general liability is going to protect you for bodily injury, property damage, personal injury, employment benefit liability. Remember, we talked about that. But this is a different policy. This is going to protect you for wrongful acts, which are errors and omissions, and/or emissions. You've done something incorrectly in the course of your duties, or you should have done something but you didn't in the course of your duties, and we're being sued. Who's we? The entity or the board members, the employees, the department heads, or official volunteers of the town are being sued personally for monetary damages, primarily out of the decisions you make or the actions you take or fail to take. And again, this is a monetary a policy that covers for monetary damages, right? So that's the first line of coverage. The second coverage area is employment-related practices, and that is when the employee sues the town in relation to an employment-related practices issue. Harassment, failure to hire, failure to promote, sexual harassment, discrimination. You made him do something that you didn't make me, and now I'm upset and I'm suing the town, and so on and so forth. That's employment-related practices. And then the third policy coverage here for $1 million is land use liability. So if we're brought into a land use type of a claim, planning, zoning, etc., that's covered up here. Now, what I can tell you is, now let's go to page 25, because you have an excess policy that sits over top of the general liability, business auto, employers, not employers liability, but public officials liability, right? So if you're brought into a claim involving those 3 policies, the claim actually exhausts the limits of those policies, and you have an additional $1 million on your excess, so you're operating with $2 million of insurance. You follow me on that? Okay. Now, what I will tell you is, we're talking about liability, I'm talking about all the liability policies. What I'll remind you is, because NYMER is a not-for-profit insurance reciprocal made up of subscribers like yourself, they are not going to settle a frivolous lawsuit. They are going to defend in a frivolous lawsuit. They have no real motivation to, because they're a not-for-profit, they have no real motivation just to pay a frivolous lawsuit and make it go away. And why do I bring that up? Because 70 to 75% of the claims that come against a NYMER subscriber in the state of New York are settled with no indemnification paid to the claimant. I think that's important to know. Okay. If you go to page 26, this is your owner's contractor's protective liability policy. Now, the owner in this scenario really is the state of New York. The contractor really is the town of Franklin. You're performing contractor services in the New York State right away or on their highway, right? So you're using their highway. If an accident occurs that surfaces out of your town's operations and the state is sued, then this policy steps in. See how that works? Okay. Go to page 27, this is your crime coverage. Again, with a crime policy, we're trying to protect the town's money primarily from employee theft, okay? And see, you have an employee theft limit of 200,000, forgery and altercations limit at 50,000, theft, disappearance, and destruction of money at 25,000. Again, theft from an employee is covered under the employee theft limit. Theft, if someone who is not an employee steals your money, then you have up to $25,000 of insurance coverage. Computer fraud at 50,000, funds transfer at 50,000. I don't know how much money you're really transferring over the computer, but if you're transferring zero,
I do. You have to.
yeah.
That's-
Most of it is federal tax, withholding, social security withholdings, retirement, New York State withholding tax. That's pretty much it.
Okay. You're going on their protected site. Okay. Down below, scheduled excess limit, bookkeeper, $500,000, clerk tax collector, $500,000. So those two positions are bonded at $500,000 each. They're in excess of the first $200,000. Okay. The rest of this talks about crime coverage. It talks about risk management programs, coverage features. Then we're back to the premium page. Question?
We have some questions. When is a good time, the community, or the A.L. Kellogg community, they're talking of improvements, you know, I'll let you ask the questions.
Yeah, well, I talked to you about the pavilion before. The other question that we're gonna bring up is, there's a possibility of adding some more playground equipment,
Okay.
which would be more adult-oriented kind of equipment. I don't know if we can talk about
Tilted
that.
World?
Well, not that, but it's kind of like, you know, like low-impact exercise equipment. And I just wanted to talk, we have I think I already gave you a copy of our checklist that's inspected every month. The playground is inspected
You're
every
actually
month.
hiring somebody to do it.
Yes, we have a paid person who does that every month and fills one out and files it in we have a stack of them. And if we get any new equipment, it would be added to that list. But we should talk about maybe, you know, if there's anything we shouldn't put in, or,
Well, I think, you know, this premises is listed on the policy, right? It's listed on the policy, so it has automatic coverage for the liability piece, right? You have bodily injury, property damage, that type of stuff. On the other hand, if you're adding physical equipment, or pavilion really is a building, right? That would need to be added to the property, and then also adding the equipment, the exercise equipment on, I don't know if we want it on the property policy or the inland marine, but either way, it doesn't matter what it is for it. So,
okay.
playground equipment as well. I just need to know when and how much and what it is.
Right.
Right.
Okay, so that they'd be, you could cover the, mainly the equipment for, you know, physical training, or, you know, that would be, now could you give us how much that would cost? I mean, is it gonna give us an idea how much it cost?
I need to know what and how much, and we'll get you an estimate.
Okay,
Yeah.
that'd be all right? Okay, thank you. And Garrett had a question here, Bill, on what page?
4.
Page 4.
The room here, it reads as one room, but there's actually 2 rooms. Page 4, number 3. We're talking about
Location.
location number 3.
I'm just gonna, from a coverage standpoint,
Right.
it doesn't
That
matter.
doesn't,
But I'm just gonna clean that up, I'll take room and I'll just put old schoolhouse building.
Did you hear what the question was?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, on the buildings and stuff, it has this is location number 3,
Mm-hmm.
and they have it down as building 1, well, room in old school building.
Yep.
And we
You might say
Jared
rooms.
thought it might wanna have 2 rooms.
Yeah. Yeah, it's basically 2 rooms and a hallway, but it's, you
I'm
know,
just gonna put old school building,
okay.
right, this is the building.
Yeah.
Okay.
If, I mean, technically, the building is the American Ginseng Farm building in the Abraham L. Kellogg School.
Okay.
Okay.
Good.
Any other
Well,
questions?
is there any more questions? I think Bill would like to see us have a resolution effect of adopting their proposal, so we can get a check.
I even generated another.
In the mail, checks in the mail, how's that?
So moved.
I'll second it.
Any more questions for Bill? All in favor?
Aye.
Carried.
Thank you.
And we thank you very much, Bill.
No, I appreciate your time and your continued support in the program and the agency.
Well, I know they've done the training, which was a big thing that Mark was, pushed for when we changed something, for the added training for the men and stuff like that, so it's been a big, or a difference, I don't know, an improvement, so,
There's more of that coming.
yeah. Well, we thank you very much,
Thank you.
and we will keep in touch.
Yes, definitely.